they're very familiar with this. We've actually had 3 people stop in the 24 hours we've been working on this to thank us and
great.
say, oh, that's great. It's looking a lot better. We really appreciate it. You can see the bolts, the screw threads. Clearly when they did the other side of his sword, they just basically screwed it on real tight. We'll have to check the archives of the records when we do our yearly inspections to see when exactly that went missing.
Okay.
The other thing too is if you can check on the handle of the sword, there's just this loose wire here. More than likely there was some sort of decorative feature, and it may have actually came back into either his hip or somewhere else on his body that it all connected.
Okay.
Usually you don't see a lot of that loose stuff like that. There's always kind of a rigidness to it. The hair is really well defined. Sometimes when we get up here closer to the color bearer, you'll see the flag. Sometimes there's actually grooves in the bronze to break up that pattern of red versus white or anything along those lines. Started the waxing this morning. Obviously you can see where I hit and where I have it. This monument's pretty thirsty as far as wax. You'll see like little green spots here. Those were waxed, but it's absorbing it in due to the natural patina. There's also another one in his chest. So what we like to do is do a hot wax application and then try to come back with preferably 2 cold wax where it's just the wax on there, no torch, no heat. And we're working our way up because we're trying to use the residual heat rising from the bottom. That's kind of how we do it. The flag is in pretty good shape. I don't really see any of the defining features on here. You see more of those more on the Union flag because there's 13 stripes.
Gotcha.
The other thing too, with it being post-Civil War, the South financially is basically destitute at this point. This piece being a Georgia monument, they put a lot of effort and money into this thing, and it's just really well done. 87 feet to the tip of the spear, I believe. So that makes us roughly around, what, 80 feet?
Yeah.
And we'll work them up. And there's some cool stuff in here. Chevrons and then, Signal Corps or Flag Bearer Corps insignia. The CSA on the buttons is a nice touch. Belt buckle. The sword's back up in here. You can actually, when the veterans did these, they actually kind of picked out of a catalog or had the option to pick out of a catalog. So it's not uncommon to see a statue or a monument or a feature on another one, either at another park or at a town square. Case in point, we have one, I can't remember which monument it is, but Orchard Knob on the far corner. There's a gentleman with a winter coat, Union soldier. That same monument, to the letter, is actually, I believe, up in New Hampshire or Maine.
Okay.
So it's actually very, very fortunate for us that they did that. Case in point, Gettysburg lost the head of a bronze piece. It went missing probably in the 70s or 80s. How do you remake a head that was cast and crafted back in 100 years ago?
Right.
They actually found a replica of that up in the Northeast, up in New Hampshire. They sent a team up there. The gentleman made a mold of the head. Then he sent it to a foundry in Montana and brought it back, and he put it on the statue, and it was a perfect fit.
Nice.
And so now that statue is back to the way it looked when they originally installed it. It's a centennial quarter, 1776 to 1976. And anytime there's any kind of major restoration work where you're occupying it, building, monument, you usually put a penny with the current date, or a quarter in this case. And you put it on the monument so that way you know if you lost your records for whatever reason. Institutional knowledge is huge. We can actually just look at this quarter and know that something was done to this monument, back in 1976 versus the 1899 when this was when this was installed.
Cool. And will you put one here this year for when you re-wax and things, or do you?
Waxing,
is that not major?
It's not major.
Okay.
Washing and waxing is something you try to do every year to every 5 years.
Okay.
This wax is just like car wax. So,
okay.
You know, Saturday afternoon you wash and wax your car. In what, 3-4 months, you're probably going to need another wash or coat.
Right.
Well, preferably you'll wash it more than that. But you'll need another coat. The same thing with this. Mother Nature, the rain, the sun, the wind, tannin from the trees, bird droppings.
Sure.
So all this stuff will wear out.
And you kind of have a running rotation list of, okay, this year we're going to do these. I mean, there's like 1,500 commemorative features.
As far as monuments and markers, it's the mid-600s.
Okay.
But then you also have the plaques, which you'll see way in the distance over here off of Poe and the Fayette Road. There's almost 800 of those.
Wow.
2 states, 3 counties, the bulk of them being here on the battlefield, but they're on the mountain, and they're not exactly just off the road.
Sure. Right.
So we have, and then the cannons themselves, I think it's around 250, 252.
Wow.
The tubes are historic. They're actual tubes that were used or could have been used. But the carriages are actually monuments because they're holding those tubes. They're not original carriages, but they date back to the 1890s as well.
That's so cool.
But it's a beautiful view.
It is.
You can almost kind of see Lookout Mountain just above the treetops over there.
Yeah.
People driving by, honking, waving.
I would imagine that the Chickamauga battlefield being in Georgia, that this is one of the most visited of the monuments. Plus, it's easy on and off the road, the main road.
It is. The people that born and have lived here for whether it's 2 years or 20 years or 80 years, they're very familiar with this. We've actually had 3 people stop in the 24 hours we've been working on this to thank us and
great.
say, "Oh, that's great. It's looking a lot better. We really appreciate it." So, but this is just one of, I think we have roughly 20 larger monuments. This one, the Iowa down in Rossville, Sherman, DeLong Reservation has a large Minnesota monument. Getting the ones that are knee high, no problem. These take a little bit more planning.
Sure. Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be up here.
Well,
appreciate it.
We appreciate National Park Partners. They're a big help to us. We've gotten a lot of deferred maintenance off the books now, and we're just going to keep going until quitting time, retirement time, whatever. I mean, we just love being out here in the park. I mean, how many people get this view?
Yeah.
How many people get to work on these assets?
It's pretty phenomenal. But yeah, you're right. There's a role for everybody, to play in preserving our history, and they say if we don't remember, we're doomed to repeat it. So we never want to be back here again. So.
Yeah, and our job to keep these going. Most people, when they think preservation, they think their lifetime, maybe the next generation. You got to think larger than that.
Sure.
Don't just think outside the box, expand the box. The Roman Colosseum, there's a prime example. So we want to keep these things not only as a memory, but as an educational tool and component. When you look at a monument, most people just kind of see what's at the face value. Georgia Monument, 1899 for the 1863 battle. Here's who served, here's who was in command. But there's more to it than that. In 1899, the technology of an 87-foot diesel lift wasn't here. So how did they get this heavy statue up here? The artistry and the craftsmanship, somebody had to just use a blank piece of paper, draw it out, and then with their hands and creativity, make this stuff. These aren't welded. It's easier nowadays to just weld that into place. Back then it was all, hand drilling of holes and painting it in with a hammer. We're going to look back 100 years from now and what we're doing now. They may have some sort of like sophisticated drone system where there's a man or a woman down there and they're just piloting the wax up here. Who knows? Yeah. They're going to think that we were
archaic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our cherry picker here.
Absolutely. So there's, the craftsmanship, how to construct it, what it's saying, what we are, what we want to become. There's a lot to it.
Amen.
So we'll keep them going.
Well, thanks for what you do.
Oh, no problem. I enjoy it.